Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Alright, we're on the book of Exodus still. Alright, we just finished off chapter 25 last video. We're gonna go on to 26 and some more, maybe 26, 27 and 28 today. Alright, so without further ado, grab your Bibles, follow along. Alright, if you don't have a Bible, no worries, I'll read out the verses anyway. Without further ado, we'll start off with a quick prayer before we get to reading. Father, I pray as we read your word that you sanctify us by your truth and fill us with your wisdom and knowledge to understand your word. Your word is truth. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Alright, Exodus 26 right to 28. It's talking about the tabernacle and priesthood. Right? So the first thing that we know that the tabernacle was a tent. Right? It's like a portable tent. That means Israel's first sanctuary was not, a permanent stone building, right? It was a dwelling place, a tent where God could, dwell in the midst of his people, right? And it could be assembled, it could be taken down and moved during Israel's, journey. And that's important because the Lord chose to dwell among his people in a humble tent, right? Just like his people were dwelling in tents at the time. Right, and it's important, it's quite astounding that the Lord is dwelling in the midst of his people, right? But we also got to realize that there was also division and limits to how close one can get to the Lord, right? And we're going to talk about these as we go. Alright, Exodus 26 verse 1. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet stuff, with cherubim skillfully worked shall you make them. Right, so the tabernacle begins with 10 curtains made of fine twined linen, blue, purple, scarlet material, right, and cherubim skillfully worked into them. Right, these aren't just random details, right? The colors are significant, right, and the cherubim is significant. And the cherubim reminds us of the Garden of Eden, right, where cherubim guarded the way. Now they appear again in the tabernacle, right, the place where God dwells in the midst of his people. So the tabernacle is, in a sense, recapturing something that was lost in the Garden of Eden, right? Not fully, because we know the full restoration comes in Jesus Christ, right? But truly recalling that lost communion. Verse 2. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains shall have one measure. 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another. And you shall make loops of blue on the edge of the outmost curtain in the first set, and likewise you shall make loops on the edge of the outmost curtain in the second set. 50 loops you shall make on the one curtain, and 50 loops you shall make on the edge of the curtain that is in the second set. The loops shall be opposite one another. And you shall make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains one to the other with the clasp, that the tabernacle may be one whole. Right, so each curtain has the same measurement, and they're joined together so that the whole structure becomes one thing. Right, and that unity is important. Right, the many curtains, says 50 loops, clasps, and connections all make the tabernacle into one united structure. Right, and I guess the resemblance we see here is the same with the Lord. He's trying to get, his people, right, unified one together. Right, he's taking parts and he's binding them together into one dwelling place so he can be in the midst of his people. Alright, verse 7. You shall also make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. 11 curtains shall you make. The length of each curtain hole shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall have the same measure. And you shall couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and the 6th curtain you shall double over at the front of the tent. And you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outmost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain which is outmost in the second set. And you shall make 50 clasps of bronze, and put the clasp into the hoops, and couple the tent together that it may be one whole. And the part that remains of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the tabernacle, and the cubit on the one side, and the cubit on the other side of what remains in the... Oh, wait, let's read that. Shall hang over the side of the tabernacle on this side and that side to cover it. Oh, we're good. Right, so then an additional covering is made now with goat's hair. Right, and it's fascinating because it reminds us that, the tabernacle is a real tent, right? Something built to be carried, that can move and that is assembled, right? And there's all kind of surprising biblical connections that come out of this, right? Even in Song of Songs, right, where the bride's hair is compared to a flock of goats, right? There are places where temple and tabernacle imagery seem to, lure in the background, right? Verse 14, and you shall make for the tent a covering of tanned rims, skins, and goat skins, right? So there's still more coverings, right? 10 ram skins and another outer covering, right? So the tabernacle is, layered. That means from the outside, it may not, have looked as glorious as what was inside, but the beauty was on the inside, right? Where the gold, the cherubim, and the sacred furniture and the holy presence of God were all found inside the tabernacle, right? And I guess there's a lesson in that too, because God's dwelling is not always, outwardly impressive by worldly standards, right? But inside it is filled with divine glory. Verse 15. And you shall make upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits shall be the length of a frame, and a cubit and a half the breadth of each frame. There shall be 2 tenons in each frame, for fitting together. So shall you do for all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames for the tabernacle, 20 frames for the south side, and 40 bases of silver you shall make under the 20 frames, 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, the 2 bases under another frame for its 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side 20 frames, and there 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame and 2 bases under another frame. And for the rear of the tabernacle westward you shall make 6 frames, and you shall make 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separate beneath, but joined at the top. At the first ring, thus shall it be with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. And there shall be 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under one frame, and 2 bases under another frame. And you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames of one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the side of the tabernacle at the rear westward. The middle bar halfway up the frame shall pass through from end to end. You shall overlay the frames with gold, and shall make their rings of gold for holders for the bars. And you shall overlay the bars with gold, and you shall erect the tabernacle according to the plan for it which has been shown you on the mountain. Right, so the Lord then gives instructions for the boards, frames, sockets, and bars that will hold the whole structure together. Right, and again it reflects the fact that this is a portable sanctuary. Right, it must be strong enough to stand, right, but also designed in a way which it can be dismantled and moved around. Right, and notice the repeated phrase that we've seen through these last chapters of Exodus, right? All of this is to be made according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. Right, that means Moses is not working only from, literary description. He's working from a heavenly pattern that the Lord has shown him. Verse 31. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet stuff and fine twined linen. Damn, I keep messing up that word. In skilled work shall it be made with cherubim. And you shall hang it up upon 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, with hooks of gold upon 4 bases of silver. And you shall hang the veil from the clasp, and bring the ark of the testimony in thither, within the veil. And the veil shall separate for you the holy place from the most holy. Right, now we come to one of the most important features of the tabernacle, which is the veil. Right, this veil separates the holy place from the most holy place, right, like the holy of holies. Right, the tabernacle is indeed the place where God dwells in the midst of his people, right, but there are still divisions. Right, the common Israelite can come only into the outer court. Right, priests can go into the holy place, right, only the high priest can enter the holy of holies, right, and that only on the Day of Atonement. Right, so God is dwelling in the midst of the people, but the way is still restricted. Right, full access has not, just been opened yet to everyone. Right, and that is why in the New Testament, right, the tearing of the veil at the death of Christ is so important. It shows that what was still closed off in the tabernacle and the temple has now, been opened through Jesus' crucifixion. Verse 34. You shall put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. Right, so the mercy seat is placed upon the ark in the most holy place. This is the place of God's enthronement, right, in the midst of his people. The place where the high priest will come on the Day of Atonement to sprinkle the blood. Right, so again, the tabernacle is not symbolic. Right, it's a place of real encounter, real priestly ministry, real sacrifice, and real atonement. Verse 35. And you shall set the table outside the veil, and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle opposite the table, and you shall put the table on the north side. Right, so outside the veil in the holy place are placed the table with the bread of presence, right, and the lampstand. Right, this means the holy place has three major items. Right, the bread of the presence, the menorah, right, which is the lampstand, and the altar of incense. Right. Verse 36. And you shall make a screen for the door of the tent of blue and purple and scarlet stuff and fine twined linen, embroidered with needlework. And you shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. Right, so then there's a screen for the entrance of the tent itself, right? So in total, there are really 3 zones of access, right? The outer court, the holy place, and the holy of holies. Right, and the movement inward, corresponds to increasing holiness and increasing restriction. All right, we're on chapter 27 now, in Exodus, verse 1. You shall make the altar of acacia wood 5 cubits long and 5 cubits broad. The altar shall be square, and its height shall be 3 cubits. And you shall make horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. You shall make pots for it to receive its ashes, and shovels and basins and forks and firepans. All its utensils you shall make of bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network of bronze, and upon the net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. And you shall set it under the ledge of the altar, so that the net shall extend halfway down the altar. And you shall make poles for the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. And the poles shall be put through the rings, so that the poles shall be upon the 2 sides of the altar when it is carried. You shall make it hollow with boards, as it has been shown you on the mountain, so shall it be made. Right, now we come to the altar of burnt offering, right, often called the bronze altar. Right, this altar stands outside the sanctuary proper, right, in the courtyard. That means this is the place where the common Israelite would first approach with sacrifice. Right, the altar is made like a hollow box, right? And again, the text says, right, just as it was shown on the mountain. So even this altar is part of the heavenly pattern that Moses saw. Verse 9. You shall make the court of the tabernacle on the south side. The court shall have hangings of fine twined linen 100 cubits long for one side. Their pillars shall be 20, and their bases 20, of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And likewise for its length on the north side there shall be hangings 100 cubits long. Their pillars 20, and their bases 20, of bronze. But the hooks of the pillars and their fillets shall be of silver. And for the breadth of the court on the west side there shall be hangings for 50 cubits, with 10 pillars and 10 bases. The breadth of the court on the front to the east shall be 50 cubits. The hangings for the one side of the gate shall be 15 cubits, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. On the other side of the hangings there shall be 15 cubits, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, of blue and purple and scarlet stuff and fine twined linen. Embroidered with needlework, it shall have 4 pillars, and with them 4 bases. All the pillars around the court shall be filleted with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their bases of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the breadth 50, and the height 5 cubits, with hangings of fine twined linen and bases of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for every use, and all its pegs, and all the pegs of the court, shall be of bronze. Alright, now the Lord describes the courtyard which surrounds the tabernacle. Right, it's enclosed with hangings, right, making a large sacred area around the sanctuary. Right, and this is important because, you know, the common Israelite would enter this courtyard with offerings, right, but not the actual holy place itself. Right, so again, you see this, division. The people may come to the courtyard, priests may enter the holy place, right, and only the high priest enters the Holy of Holies. Right, and this is all underlining the holiness of God and the special mediating role of the priesthood. Verse 20. And you shall command the people of Israel that they bring to you pure beaten olive oil for the light, that a lamp may be set up to burn continually. In the tent of meeting, outside the veil which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall tend it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a statute forever to be observed throughout the generations by the people of Israel. Alright, so the people must bring pure beaten olive oil for the lamp so that the lamp may burn continually. Right, the light is to be kept burning before the Lord. Right, so the menorah, right, the 7-branch lampstand, is the source of light in the holy place. Right, and later in Scripture, light becomes a very rich symbol of divine presence, truth, holiness, and it's the light of life. We're in Exodus chapter 28 now. Verse 1. Right, it's talking about priesthood. Right, it's important because the tabernacle and the priesthood go together. Right, if the tabernacle is the place where God dwells, the priesthood is the means by which the people are represented before God. Verse 1. Then bring near to you Aaron your brother and his sons with him, from among the people of Israel, to serve me as priests. Aaron and Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. Right? Aaron and his sons are set apart to serve as priests. Right? This priesthood is not casual, it's holy, it's consecrated, and it's distinct. Right? The priest is not simply a religious leader in the vague sense, right? The priest is a mediator. Right? He functions on behalf of the people before God. Verse 2. And you shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother, for glory and for beauty. Right? The priestly garments are holy garments. Right? They're not simply just, clothing. Right? They signify that the priest has a special vocation. Right? A distinct calling, a role set apart in holiness. Verse 3. And you shall speak to all who have ability, whom I have endowed with an able mind, that they make Aaron's garments to consecrate him for my priesthood. These are the garments which they shall make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a coat of checkerwork, a turban, and a girdle. They shall make holy garments for Aaron your brother and his sons to serve me as priests. They shall receive gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet stuff, and fine twined linen. Right? So the garments to be made with the same rich materials that we've already seen, right? Gold, blue, purple, scarlet, and fine twined linen. Right? And this is where the matter of mixed fabrics become important. Right? People often misread laws like Leviticus 19:19 and says, well, look, mixtures of fabric were forbidden. Right? But that misses the point entirely. Right? The issue was not that mixtures of fabric were somehow, sinful. Right? The point was that these special mixtures signified the holy priest's vocation. Right? If ordinary Israelites wore the same holy mixed fabrics, it would blur the distinction between the priesthood, right, and the people, and in all, it would create confusion. Right? So the priest wears these garments because he is set apart. Right? And the tabernacle itself also includes these rich mixtures, right? Because it too is set apart as a holy space. Verse 6. And thou shalt make the ephod of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet stuff, and of fine twined linen skillfully worked. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces attached to its 2 edges, that it may be joined together, and the skillfully woven band upon it, 2 gridded on. shall be of the same workmanship and materials of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet stuff, and fine twined linen. And ye shall take 2 onyx stones, and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the remaining 6 on the other stone, in the order of their birth. As a jeweler engraves signets, so shall you engrave the 2 stones with the names of the son of Israel. You shall enclose them in settings of gold filigree. And you shall set the 2 stones upon the shoulder pieces of the ephod, as stones of remembrance for the sons of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord upon his 2 shoulders for remembrance. And ye shall make settings of gold filigree, and 2 chains of pure gold twisted like cords, and ye shall attach the corded chains to the settings. Right, so the first major vestment described is the ephod. Right, this is a special priestly garment, right, and it includes 2 stones on the shoulders, right, with the names of the tribes of Israel engraved on them. Right, why? Because the priest bears the people before the Lord. Right, the names of the tribes are literally carried on his person as a memorial before God. Right, and that is deeply, theological. The priest is not acting for himself alone, he's representing the people. Right, and this also helps us understand David, right, later on, because when David brought the ark to Jerusalem, he wore an ephod and acted in a kind of king priestly way, right, recalling the priesthood of Melchizedek. Verse 15, the breastplate. And you shall make a breastpiece of judgment, in skilled work, like the work of the ephod you shall make it. Of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet stuff, and fine twined linen you shall make it. It shall be square and double, a span its length and a span its breadth, and you shall set in it 4 rows of stones. A row of sardius, topaz, and carbuncle shall be the first row, and the second row an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond, and the third row a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst, and the 4th row a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold filigree. There shall be 12 stones with their names according to the names of the sons of Israel. They shall be like signets, each engraved with its name for the 12 tribes. And you shall make for the breastpiece twisted chains like cords of pure gold. And you shall make for the breastpiece 2 rings of gold, and put the 2 rings on the 2 edges of the breastpiece. And you shall put the 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings at the edges of the breastpiece. The 2 ends of the 2 cords you shall attach to the 2 settings of filigree, and so attach it in front to the shoulder pieces of the ephod. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them at the 2 ends of the breastpiece, on its inside edge next to the ephod. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and attach them in front to the lower part of the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod, as it's joining above the skillfully woven band of the ephod. And they shall bind the breastpiece by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it may lie upon the skillfully woven band of the ephod, and that the breastpiece shall not come loose from the ephod. So Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastpiece of judgment upon his heart, when he goes into the holy place to bring them to continual remembrance before the Lord. And in the breastpiece of judgment you shall put the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be upon Aaron's heart. When he goes in before the Lord, thus Aaron shall bear the judgment of the people of Israel upon his heart before the Lord continually. Right, so next comes the breastplate of judgment. Right, it's richly made and includes 12 stones, right, 1 for each tribe of Israel. Right, so now the high priest carries the tribes not only on his shoulders but also over his heart. Right, and again, the point is that he ministers on behalf of, the whole covenant people. Right, and inside or associated with the breastplate are the Urim and Thummim. Right, these were used in ancient Israel to seek Lord's judgment or decision. Right, we don't know exactly how they functioned in detail, and at some point they just disappear from the biblical story. Right, still their presence here reinforces that the high priest is associated with discernment, right, judgment, and divine decision. Verse 31. And you shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue. It shall have in it an opening for the head, with a woven binding around the opening, like the opening in a garment, that it may not be torn. On its skirts you shall make pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet stuff around its skirts, with bells of gold between them. a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate, round about on the skirts of the robe. And it shall be upon Aaron when he ministers, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, lest he die. Alright, so the robe worn under the ephod is described next. Right, at its hem are pomegranate and bells. Right, and the bells are significant because their sound will be heard when the high priest ministers in the holy place. Right, signaling his movements as he serves before the Lord. Verse 36. And you shall make a plate of pure gold and engrave on it, like the engraving of a signet, holy to the Lord. And you shall fasten it on the turban by a lace of blue. It shall be on the front of the turban. It shall be upon Aaron's forehead, and Aaron shall take upon himself any guilt incurred in the holy offering which the people of Israel hallow as their holy gifts. It shall always be upon his forehead, that they may be accepted before the Lord. Right, you shall make a plate of pure gold. Right, so the high priest wears a gold plate on his forehead. Right, attached to the turban, and engraved on it are the words, holy to the Lord. Right, and that is a great summary of the priesthood. Right, the high priest bears holiness on his forehead. Right, he's visibly marked as belonging to the Lord. Right, once again, the point is, being distinct, having distinction. Right, holiness means to be set apart. The priest is set apart for sacred service. Verse 39. And you shall weave the coat in checker work of fine linen, and you shall make a turban of fine linen, and you shall make a girdle embroidered with needlework. And for Aaron's sons you shall make coats and girdles and caps. You shall make them for glory and beauty. And you shall put them upon Aaron your brother, and upon his sons with him, and shall anoint them and ordain them and consecrate them, that they may serve me as priests. And ye shall make for them linen breeches to cover their naked flesh, from the loins to the thighs they shall reach. And they shall be upon Aaron and upon his sons when they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister in the holy place, lest they bring guilt upon themselves and die. This shall be a perpetual statute for him and for his descendants after him. Alright, so the chapter concludes by describing the rest of the priestly garments, right, which includes the tunic, the sash, the turban, and the garments worn by Aaron's sons. Right, all of these underscore the dignity, holiness, and special calling, of the priesthood. Alright, we're going to wrap it up there. Alright, we've finished chapter 28. Alright, appreciate it if you've listened this far. Alright, may God bless you, protect you all, keep you safe. Hope you have a good rest of your day, week, weekend. Alright, hopefully see you in the next video.